Hello and welcome to the Cute Baby Tutorials using Gimp. I may do a few things in this video, so if you want to go straight to one of the main sections, then the times they start are shown on your screen now. These videos are also available in higher definition on my website, along with any original files I'm allowed to give you in case you want to work on the same image as me. Just click on the link below. Okay, here we go. This is a fairly typical situation you do get when you're taking photographs indoors, especially without flash. The lighting in here is probably tungsten lighting, so you get a very definite yellowish, orangish cast to the photograph. The good news is that can be corrected fairly easily using color balance. Now I'll set up my folders and files like I usually do. So create a folder or a layer group, call that fix, and make a duplicate of my photograph and click and drag that into the fix folder, and we'll rename this to base and we're ready to go. If you're going to be doing any work with color balance, the first thing I recommend you do is go to colors, levels, which we discussed in the previous video. The reason I want you to get this right first is that, well, there's no point in trying to correct the colors on an image that's too dark or too light. Changing the overall brightness will change the way you see the colors. So let's get that about there. We can always go back to this afterwards. Right, got that to work with. Now I'll go to colors, color balance. And here's our dialog box. Okay, so what have we got? We've got three buttons here: shadows, midtones and highlights. And you've got three sliders here. This is where you do your actual adjusting. You've got red, green and blue on the one side. There's red, there's green, there's blue, which kind of looks kind of purple, but well. On the other hand, you've got cyan, magenta and yellow, just in case you don't know what those colours are. Cyan is a kind of turquoise, more greeny kind of a blue. Magenta is a little bit more pinkish, a bit more purplish than red. And yellow, well, you know yellow. Right, so what we need to do is, to get an idea of what we're going to be affecting, here's something you can do. You can go to one of the sliders and really slide it. If I slide it all the way over, you can clearly see the areas that it's going to affect this particular slider. I'll click on reset for that. Same with shadows. Go to there, drag the slider out, and you can see it's affecting different parts of the picture in different ways, and it's a bit of a balancing act to try and figure out what to do with these. Now, normally, you go for the midtones first. Let's see what happens with this. I think I've got too much blue in the picture. Let's move the slider. That's a lot further than I would normally move it, and it's not really doing much good there. Alright, reset that. Well, let's try cyan, which is a kind of blue. You're getting... Again, no, that's not working either. Normally, do the midtones first, but instead, I'll go to the shadows, see if that makes a difference. And yes, that's making more of the changes that I want to see made. So I'm dragging it towards blue. And also, if I take the bottom one off to the right, I tend to take the top one off to the left. So you get a bit of a line or a slight curve to try and balance out. Right. That's the shadows. We'll go with that for now. We can always come back to that. Midtones. Again, I want a bit more blue in there maybe. The blue's not really working. Let's go for the cyan, which is a kind of blue. That's getting more the effect I'm looking for. And let's take a look at the highlights. Blue, no, it seems to have no effect on the skin whatsoever. And remember, concentrate on the skin tones in preference to anything else. Let's take that back down to zeros. I'll just click on this little arrow here. Oops, to take it back down to zero. Let's try cyan. Cyan is giving me more the effect that I'm looking for. That's starting to get more natural in tone. Maybe try the blue that way a little bit. Let's go back, take a look at the shadows again. Alright, I'm going to go with that. That was a tricky one. Normally it's more straightforward. You can do the midtones first, then you do the shadows, the highlights. With this one, I had to start with the shadows first to get it to look more how I needed it to look. Let's press OK with that, and let's compare that. Oh yeah, definite improvement. Now I've made my corrections, I'm going to go back to levels and see what we can do with this for the overall highlights. Let's move the white over a little bit, black over a little bit. Do I want to adjust the overall cast? It's starting to get a little bit light there. I'm going to leave it about there. Original, new version. I would say it's looking better. Okay, we did an indoor shot, now we've got an outdoor shot, and believe it or not, this is England, and it was a sunny day. Yeah, we do occasionally get them. I think the last one was in 1985, but hey, move on. I've already set up the file structure for us, so you don't have to go through all that again. We're going to be working on the base file in the fix folder. Right, the first thing you need to do with that, especially when you get a sunny day, as before, do the levels first. Now, as you can see, well, we can get quite a bit of black in there. I don't want to make it too dark though. You can also get a little bit of highlight there. Actually, no, I'm not going to adjust the white triangle, because if you take a look at the hat, if I move it over, you're going to start to lose some detail in the shadows there. So I'm going to just shift the overall lightness of the image using the middle slider. Get to about there. Click on OK. Okay, I can do something with this. Now, one problem you can have when looking at a picture like this is, well, you say, well, which way does it need to go? Does it need more green in there? Does it need more blue, more red? You don't know. Well, there's something you can use to help yourself with this, and that is the color picker tool, this little guy here. And also, come over to the other side of the screen. You want the foreground, background, color dialog box. And you can see you've got 3 different sliders here, red, green and blue, which tells you how much red, green or blue there is underneath the color picker when you click on the image. So if I come to, say, the hat, I'll just zoom in for this a little bit. And I'll move it over so you can see the image right next to the sliders. If I start clicking here, I know the hat's white, but the shadows have got a very definite blue cast, because look, this blue slider is way high, the green is lower, the red is even lower. So there's a definite blue cast to this. Click around, oh yeah, definitely. Now, in order to get a slightly more average reading of this, because I'm clicking here and I'm just getting the pixel that's underneath the color picker, I'll go over to the tool options for the color picker and click on sample average. It's got a radius of 11, which means that when I come back over here, you get this box here which takes the average reading of all the colors inside the box. That's a little bit big for my purposes, so I'm going to take this down to, let's try 3. Okay, that works. And sure enough, I can see there's a blue cast there. Let's compare that with an area, a white area, which is a little bit more in shadow, this shirt down here. And yeah, there's less blue in the slightly deeper shadows. Alright, well, I can use that information. Yeah, I'm getting more of a grey blue there. Right, that information I can use. Let's just zoom out so we can see the overall picture and get an idea of what we're doing. So we've got our information. Let's go back to colors, color balance. Okay, let's start with the midtones like we usually do. I know there's an overall bluish cast to this image that I want to bring down, so I'll move the slider away from the blue end. And if I'm moving the bottom slider to the left, I tend to move the top slider off to the right. Either a straight line or a curve like that, but if you just want, try adjusting the other. Alright, let's try going with that for now. Let's take a look at the shadows. Now this needs less adjustment, because if you remember, the slightly darker shadow had a little bit neutral grey colour. And let's take a look at the highlights. Now definitely with the highlights, I want to make them with less blue in there and compensate with a little bit more red. Really what I'm doing here, you've got blue here, and you've got cyan here, which is kind of a blue. So you're attacking the blue from both ends here It's not just an arbitrary thing that you do, you're actually checking the blue twice. And click on OK. Now let's check and see what we've got here. Go back to the colour picker and check on the same areas again. So here, there's still a bluish cast to it, but it's less than it was before. Let's check the shadow areas. Definitely much less blue. Now I could keep going back to this again and again until I get a completely neutral kind of shadowy grey tone. But then I have to ask, well, what's the point? This is a sunny day. You expect to see a certain amount of blue light or blue in the shadow. If I corrected it so it was completely neutral grey, then I'm going to end up with, well, effectively a colder day. I don't really want to remember this is a cold day. I've made my colour corrections, but I'm not going to be obsessive about this. As before, I'm just trying to get something which looks right. Now let's compare this with the original image. Grey, and now we know with the blue cast. And now much more neutral and a lot brighter. Okay, I think that's that. I hope you got something out of this video. If you did, maybe you consider clicking on one of the links below and check out my game called Disco Baby, which is on the iTunes Store or Android stores like Google Play. It has 3 different games in it, a memory game, a maths game for children, and a dance along with me game for toddlers to join in with. Thanks for your time.